can't wait to show our daughter this movie.
Yeah.
How
when she's
early
old enough.
do you think?
Maybe after first year of college. I just want
First year of college?
I want her
There's no way.
to know that this is she needs to be the Veronica of her life.
I think you're underselling our child.
You're right. She's going to be very precocious. Let's show it to her at 7. Welcome to the Be Mean Fast Forward podcast.
My name's Charlie Jake Sanchez.
My name's Kat Solka.
I've seen a lot of movies.
And I have not. And today, it's my turn. Today is a Kat episode. We are watching and discussing 1988 Heathers.
I have not seen Heathers. Will come
cult
as a
classic.
complete shock to a lot of people.
A lot of my movies are cult classics because I watched the most random movies and nothing else, not the popular ones at all.
How old were you when you watched Heathers?
This was probably in the more recent part of my life, like 20s. I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you know about Heathers, Charles?
I actually, the only thing that I know about Heathers is that Winona Ryder's in it.
Yes.
And Christian Slater.
Yes.
And from what I can gather, it is a precursor to like Mean Girls and Clueless. That's all I know. I that's what I can gather. And I know it's dark. I know it's a satire. And there may or may not be a school shooter plot or something. That's basically everything that I know, which is quite a bit, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Big slay. I'm going to keep my face neutral. Okay, great. Yeah, I watched this, like I said, recently in the last 10 years, and realized quickly after that it's very polarizing. I thought everyone loved Heathers, and that is not the case. So, like all movies that I like, I want your opinion because I gauge if my opinion's right based on Charlie's opinion.
Interesting.
Because I'm a woman. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Feminism. Okay. So let's get into the movie before I derail this anymore and get into. Oh shoot! What's the director's name? Hold please.
There's a host on this podcast.
Hold,
I promise
please.
you. There's a host.
I forgot how I started the sentence. Let's get into Michael Lehman's Heathers.
Of the Lehman Brothers.
Is that true?
Nope.
Great.
Those are bankers. Let's start the movie.
And we're back. I feel fun because I feel fun.
Yeah. You're doing a great job
Thanks,
today.
babe. Thanks. This is not the 4th time we've recorded the intro. Thanks, babe. Charles.
Yeah.
What did you think?
This was a treat. From the opening scene, I think like 2 minutes in, I had the hardest laugh that I've laughed in a long time.
I didn't want to interrupt, but like, what was that for?
I don't think it was this. I think there was a line that preceded it, but it's if you want to fuck with the Eagles.
Yeah, it was something about the Eagles.
Like, if you want to fuck with the Eagles, you got to learn to fly. And she said it so straightforward that it felt all of a sudden I was in the movie, I was in the place, the time, the satire.
You know what it's gonna sound
the
like.
feeling, yeah, the musicality, and so I was bought in from the beginning.
Good, I love that.
Yeah,
I loved it. Now it's been a while since I've seen it, so I wanted to make sure I remembered all of it, which I didn't. I forgot a few parts of this movie, but overall, such good satire, such like awesome dark humor, commentary on society, would never be made today ever.
That's the I've read since we watched it and did research or whatever in the meantime. I learned a lot about the reaction that people currently have to this movie.
Yeah.
And your point is well taken. they tried to make some sort of TV show
Yeah.
or remake,
excited
or
about
not
that.
remake, but a TV show, and people reacted very poorly
They
to
canceled it
I
before
think
they released
canceled
it.
it before they released it because of the school shooting element or something, or
Yes.
there was
And I think test audiences were like up in arms.
I want to reframe that. They canceled it because of America's history with school shootings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that
Which is also why it would never be made today. The opening joke for Christian Slater is he pulls a gun out at school. And
that's the thing, though. That reads to me so much more clearly now. Like it you could say that's outdated. I think the reason people feel uncomfortable with something like that is because it hits very close to home.
yeah.
It was ahead of its time in so many ways about the culture of high school, the culture of America, the way that we treat each other
Yeah.
in these vulnerable times in high school and everything.
Yeah.
I was completely in love with the satire. Reading some of those reactions online of like, I'm 24 years old is like this article. I don't want to bring up where I found it, but it's like, I'm 24 years old and I watched Heathers for the first time. Yikes. And then it was like every single reason why they didn't like it. It was written in 2019. And it was missing the entire point
Yeah.
of the movie. You know, and there are really terrible things that happen to everyone in the movie.
Yeah.
But it is commenting on it the entire time.
Yeah. The director said he was inspired by this line from The Breakfast Club, and this movie is satirizing movies like The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, all the John Hughes movies.
Yeah. The one emo girl says something like, when you become a grown-up, your heart dies, or something like that. And he took that and adapted it to say, when you turn 14, your heart dies. And it was about how he wrote the movie to sort of express how tragic it is when teenagers are imitating adulthood.
Yeah.
And how they feel like this is how they should behave as grown-ups, and they are awful people, and sometimes teenagers are just awful for the sake of being awful, and there's like a nihilistic side,
Yeah.
there's a status quo societal side, and then there's like the main character
That's
and how she decides.
Great point. It's like when you turn 14, when you reach puberty, when you reach high school, you try to put on an adult suit.
Yeah.
And it's ill-fitting, and there are things that happen to you. There are ways in which you interact with the world where it falls apart. Like
Yeah.
that costume falls apart. And you, after high school, I find you find yourself. You have to figure it out afterwards because you were wrong.
Yeah.
Like your assumption about the way the world was and the way you would be treated and the way you should treat others was wrong.
Yeah.
And this movie comments on it beautifully.
And I will say, as we're beginning this episode, there's a trigger warning in the description. This movie does deal with suicide, date rape, sexual assaults, bullying, bulimia, lots of dark subjects, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But some of the critics who liked the movie pointed out that none of the victims of those things are the butt of the joke. It's always the perpetrators of all of these things, mainly and above all society, and it's like flippant attitude towards when teenagers bring these things to adults and is like, hey, I'm struggling. They're like, oh, you don't know what struggle is,
Yeah.
that kind of attitude, and how that just perpetuates all of these terrible things in
If this
society.
movie was mean-spirited, it would not have that solo scene where I'm forgetting the name of the girl who's mistreated the whole time. Beth?
Martha. Her
Yes.
name is Martha Dunstock, but everyone at school calls her Martha Dump Truck.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we see her sitting on the bleachers, and she has that moment where the soda falls on her.
Yeah.
She's wearing this Big Fun t-shirt.
Yeah.
It literally says Big Fun, not like it's a Big Fun t-shirt.
No, it's not big
and,
fun.
And in that moment, I went, that's the last straw. And sure enough, she walks into traffic and
Yeah.
tries to kill herself.
Yeah.
It legitimately one of the few times in the movie where someone is actually
is attempting suicide.
attempting suicide, other than Heather McNamara, I think.
And that's later.
Yeah, that's later.
Yeah.
And that was a very touching moment in a sea of satire. I don't think the movie would place moments like that, and especially the moment at the end, which feels very earned. It doesn't feel like it's tacked on, where she ends up going and saying like, hey, do you want to go watch movies and hang out and eat popcorn, and they walk off together. Is the point of the movie. Very beautiful. I think I was very touched.
Okay, so let's recap the movie. It is about a clique of popular girls at school named the Heathers. Their names are Heather Chandler, the leader, Heather Duke, and Heather McNamara, who are the followers, and Veronica Sawyer, who is the fourth Heather, even though her name is not Heather.
Yeah.
And they, rule the school. And there's this great opening shot of them playing croquet in very oversized adult, literally like looks like children wearing adult costumes.
Yeah.
I know that was the 80s style, but still just being generally nasty towards each other. And there's definitely power dynamics there. And then they go into the cafeteria at their school, and there's this amazing long scene where they are talking to their fellow popular friends. And you can tell that Veronica is the black sheep of the group.
Yes.
And she does not follow lead Heather's whim like the other two do.
Yeah.
And she fights her.
Lead
a
Heather's
bit.
actually like looking to her a lot of the time.
They're kind of battling for dominance a little bit. And she's like, let's talk to some other people. So they talk to the geeks, they talk to the loners, the burnouts, the stoners, like, sound familiar? Heather's walked so Mean Girls could run.
Heather's walked so Clueless and Mean Girls could run. I mean, I can't believe that was the I mean, I just assumed, or I had read stuff places, and so it's
the writer David Waters, his
brother Mark Waters
directed Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently Tina Fey long has denied Heather's had anything to do with her Mean Girls.
Tina. It's
But
okay.
the DNA is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether or not she subconsciously or consciously wrote it that way.
The DNA is there from Breakfast Club. The DNA is there from 16
the
Candles.
The through line is there.
Yeah, exactly. It came from, everything comes from something. Anyway, Veronica meets Christian Slater.
Yeah,
His
they play a
name's
prank
JD.
on the Martha girl.
Yeah, they play a
JD's
prank on the Martha girl.
disapproving. They meet.
He sees her, he judges her. She's like, who's that kid? He's literally talking to no one, and he's wearing a trench coat at school. Interesting. And she talks to him. He's very suave, kind of challenges her a little bit. And then when they leave, the jocks come up to him and make very homophobic jokes towards him.
Yeah. It's a philosophical battle of wills.
And as the punchline, he whips out the gun and shoots them, and it cuts away. And they're like, he should have been arrested. And it's like, no, he should have just
shot
gotten
them
suspended.
with blanks.
He shot them with blanks.
Yeah.
He's a big jokester.
Mm-hmm.
So Heather and Veronica go to a college party. There is dubious consent at this college party.
Dubious is one word for it.
The thing that if I had watched it as a teenager would have like traumatized me a bit.
What?
Just these scenarios that I had never been a part of and don't realize are theatricalized versions of real events, like college parties.
Yeah.
And how that would have like affected me really negatively. I'd be like, oh, it's just like, it would give me like
you wouldn't have gone to any parties.
Yeah, exactly. I would have been afraid, traumatized by this. I'm glad that I saw it as a 20-year-old. So they go to a party. Veronica has had it with Heather and throws up. They have a big fallout. And then that night she's writing in her journal and she's like, I want to kill Heather. I hate her so much. And JD just magically shows up at her window.
Yeah.
And they bone, and it's really sweet. And very non-judgmental of underage sex, which I think faded very quickly after this movie came out.
Interesting, yeah. Well, I think it's in response to maybe like a purity thing that was going on at the time.
I liked it. I liked the vibe. So they go to Heather's the next morning, and they want to pull a prank because Veronica threw up, so she wants to make Heather throw up by giving her milk and orange juice. And JD's like, no, let's give her drain cleaner. And she's like, don't be an asshole. Like, I'm not trying to kill her. She takes the wrong cup anyway, and he doesn't say anything. And it's this really interesting like dynamic where you think that JD's gonna just try and kill her, and ends up letting Veronica do whatever she wants, which is accidentally grabbing the poison. And he goes,
Oh, never mind.
no, I'm just letting, it's all good. They kill Heather.
Yeah.
And
Heather
thus
dies.
starts the string of murdering popular kids who are assholes at school.
And making it seem like a suicide.
And making it seem like suicides. Yeah. Veronica and JD kind of have this battle where he says nothing matters, life is chaos, we like killed the dinosaurs, and she's like, no, things matter, like if we kill one Heather, another Heather's gonna pop up in her place, like the status quo, it sucks, we have to change it.
Yeah, they go back and forth. A bunch of people die, and some people try to commit suicide for real. It's being
sensationalized. Yeah. All of these really pretty popular kids at school are being sensationalized by the adults who aren't concerned with actual ramifications
they're out
of
to
all
lunch,
of these.
Except for Mrs. Fleming, or what's her name?
Mrs. Fleming, who's also like just capitalizing on this for her own selfish reasons.
And so little does Veronica know that JD is kind of orchestrating things behind the scene, and he's propped up another Heather to create another...
a caste system.
Yeah, caste system. And she finds out they try to kill the last Heather. Do they succeed?
No, that's a dream sequence.
That's right. That's a dream sequence.
Basically, he has these machinations where he's going to get all of the kids from the high school to sign this paper, which states it's a suicide pact, even though it's like hidden at the time, saying all these kids collectively commit suicide, and he's just going to blow up the school. And Veronica has to stop him. And she does.
She does. And she kills her very bad boyfriend.
She doesn't kill him.
Oh, he kills himself. That's right.
Tries to kill him to get away, and the bomb does not go off.
Yeah.
And then he meets her kind of as an equal outside, and instead of blowing up the school, he just blows himself up in a actual suicide. Yeah. And she smokes her cigarette and just puts
a cigarette in her mouth right before he's about to blow himself up. It's one of my favorite moments ever.
And
followed by
explosion lights her cigarette.
Yep.
And then she walks through the school
as everyone is filing out to go see what happened with the explosion. And Heather Duke comes up to her and says, "You look like hell." And she says,
"Thanks, I just got back."
I just got back. The greatest.
I love all the lines in this movie, but specifically that one is so good. And she breaks the status quo. She becomes the lead Heather. Yeah. She takes the scrunchie, and she goes to the unpopular Martha, and she goes, "Hey, let's skip prom and watch movies."
In town. Yeah.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Brings Martha in,
and then they just walk down the hallway and the credits roll. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's great. The screenplay is like a top 10 screenplay that I've ever heard.
Nice.
It is one of my favorite things I've ever been able to watch. It's beautifully rendered. Those lines are fantastic.
And they're so specific in like a way that doesn't always make sense / is not explained.
Exactly.
It's just like, these are characters. I've built these characters. They say these things.
Hence, when that moment, if you want to fuck with the Eagles, you gotta fly. You gotta learn to fly like one. It was just like came out of nowhere and hit me in the face.
First minute of the dialogue
made it awaken something in me where I went, yes.
The writer said that he made up all the slang.
Dan Waters, yeah.
Because he knew that if he was going to use current slang from actual teenagers of 1988, it would date the movie instantly.
Right. Yeah.
Just much like movies today who try to use Gen Z language. You're like, oh God, someone not Gen Z wrote this. He does the "What's your damage?" That was invented here.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
I think well, now that you're surprised, I'm not sure. I think so, though, because it says, I read something that was like the iconic "What's your damage?" question.
Ah, cool.
And that became like a thing, I think. Or it's a thing now, so.
We should say some lines. Well, fuck me gently with a chainsaw. Do I look like Mother Teresa? My son's a homosexual and I love him. I love my dead gay son.
I love my dead gay son.
Just an incredible line read from Kurt's dad.
You're such a pillowcase. I don't even know what
yeah.
that means, but that is a beautiful insult. You're such a pillowcase.
That's so good. What's your damage, Heather? Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, Dear Diary, my teen angst bullshit now has a body count, which is phenomenal. I mean, we were talking about not only those movies, but Jennifer's Body, Diablo Cody, clear influence on someone like that. And we haven't seen Jennifer's Body. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Beaming Fast Forward. Is it? Is it on the list?
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
I've seen Jennifer's Body.
I'm pretty excited for it. I haven't seen it at all.
So what I like most about the start of the movie is not only the matching costumes to balls to houses, the color match of all the characters, but also literally one of Heather's first lines is "fuck me gently with a chainsaw," which is so not how I pictured. I've seen The Breakfast Club. That is John Hughes Disney-ified, like polite society teenagers. This is reality teenagers, the ones who like actually curse when no one's looking or when they're in the cafeteria.
Yeah, they're doing terrible things all the time.
Terrible things.
Yeah.
And they're terrible people. And to try to give them some sort of like higher morality like The Breakfast Club does, he's like, fuck that. These guys sometimes are just cruel for the sake of being cruel and to keep the status quo, the hierarchy, like you said, in place so that as long as someone's beneath them, they're above someone, What's
the line that the mom says to her that was like so profound?
Yeah, it's probably in there. I don't want to get it wrong.
I know. I want to get it right because it has to do with what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. The mom says when teenagers complain that they want to be treated like human beings, it's usually because they are being treated like human beings.
Yep. And there's this. That's the thesis of the movie.
I wish I heard that when I was a teenager. That would have clarified so many things. I would have been like, oh, the world isn't completely against me. I'm just.
And teenagers treat each other terribly, but adults treat each other terribly. It's a vicious cycle. You have to break it individually.
Exactly why we're kind of jumping ahead. I mean, this is kind of going to be more free-flowing than usual, I think. But the moment where you find out that, what's his name? JD's dad has blown up the library that his mom was in. And
she may have just entered the library. You're not sure if his dad murdered his mom or if she committed suicide in his demolition project.
Yeah. And you just go like, oh, these are just psychopaths raising psychopaths, like just across America.
Yeah.
These are just psychos raising psychos. And very apt in today's world. Yeah. I was very impressed by how it fit in. It fit right in with modern society. Even though it's completely dated in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
not the
and
dialogue,
I think
like
even
you said.
for the 80s, it was like dramatized. Like the shoulder pads are so huge.
Sure.
The hair is so teased.
Yeah.
There's matching colors everywhere. Like it's extra on top of when it was made anyway. And it is like, the thesis of the movie is like, oh, high school is just a smaller version of society, and there are people on top, and there is a status quo, and you have the people who are nihilistic and think nothing matters, so might as well kill everyone, and you have the people who can feel the wrong happening and want to do something about it, but don't always have the courage, and like takes a while to get there.
Yeah. Sometimes actively involved in the wrong happening
to fit in.
I love the lunch tray cut after she's talking about bulimia and puking, and then it cuts right to the lunch tray.
A friend's job is never done. It's like, and then he turned to me and he was like, "What does that mean?" And I was like,
I didn't understand. And she's like, bulimia is da 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 da. She's like, you should maybe see a doctor.
You should see a doctor. But it's said in a way, all the lines, but like the humanity like trope where everyone's just like, instead of the humanity, it's like, the humanity. It's matter of fact.
Why do I do this? It's because you're an idiot.
It's because you're. Oh yeah, that's right.
That's it. And then we just say, you too.
Oh, you too. And it's random. It just shows you that the parents are on a hamster wheel.
Totally.
And she's going to a party one day, and then the next day she's going to the funeral. Mm-hmm. I got a motor. I'm gonna be late for the funeral.
That's fantastic. By like the 16th line, I just like slammed my hand down.
I
And I was
know,
just like,
he had the biggest reaction. It was amazing.
I was
Bug
so
got scared.
excited. I wish I could remember the line, but it was like came and went super quick. And that's what the movie handles itself so deftly.
I want to read that script. Like, I want to see it on the
Me
page.
too. I mean, I might frame that script. That's one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
So what did you say when Christian Slater came on the screen? Do you remember?
Oh, it wasn't just Christian. No, it wasn't just Christian Slater.
Okay.
It was when Christian Slater is approached by Winona Ryder, and I was just like, this is very important for me and a lot of people. This is, I love Christian Slater.
And you also said, thank God I didn't watch this when I was a teenager.
Oh yeah, because it would have influenced every decision that I made.
You would have wanted to.
I would have
JD.
tried to become JD, not until I get to the part of the movie where I go like, oh, he's
yeah.
the villain, and then
Oh, he's the bad guy. I thought he was cool, and even the main character says, like, I can't believe I ever thought you were cool.
yeah, exactly.
So good.
No, and at the end, what does she say about?
She said, "You know what I want, babe? Cool guys like you to stay out of my life." So
Fantastic.
good.
I can't wait to show our daughter this movie.
Yeah.
How
when she's
early
old enough.
do you think?
Maybe after first year of college. I just want. Well,
First year of college.
I want her
There's no
to
way.
know that this is she needs to be the Veronica of her life.
I think you're underselling our child.
You're right. She's
frankly.
gonna be very precocious.
gonna be
Let's show it to her at 7.
I think we're going to be explaining a lot of things very early to that kid.
I think so. So Christian Slater went in.
Yeah.
He made a choice.
He's
and he committed 200%.
You just don't see it anymore.
No.
You just don't
Everyone's
see it.
trying to be like the coolest version
cool,
of
and they're
everyone
like-
else. And he's like, and you know what? You said it first, but it is true. He based his performance off of Jack Nicholson.
I saw that in the research too.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Of course. I mean,
Because the director or the writer wanted Kubrick to direct this
what?
movie.
Dan Waterston.
He said he wrote it in a Kubrickian style, and
That
he
makes-
wanted Kubrick to write it, to
100% makes sense. Because it reminds me at times, weirdly, you're not going to get this necessarily, but like it reminds me a lot of
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
I read that in the research. I
Is
don't know
that
what
what it
that
said?
means, but he said the cafeteria scene is based on is inspired by the barracks scene.
Yes, the entire
that means.
training, basic training scenes in Full Metal Jacket. That's so crazy.
It's more crazy that you didn't read that on the internet.
No.
You just came up with that, and I was like, "Is it Full
Well,
Metal
because you
Jacket?"
said the Kubrick thing, but it 100% reminds me of that.
You said the Jack
That's
Nicholson
so
thing. He was
cool.
like, I wonder if his favorite actor was Jack Nicholson.
Well,
when
I
he
just was
shooting this.
like, we're halfway through the movie, and I was like, man, he would have made a really good Joker, like a young
Yeah.
Joker back then, like in a corny sort of more Batman movie. And then I went, wait a second, he reminds me a lot of Jack Nicholson. I was like, I wonder if Jack Nicholson was his favorite actor. And you were like, yeah, man, probably. Like,
It clicked for me and then I saw a video that was like, yeah, he was really inspired by his performance in The Shining and like crazy, you know, like that
to
kind of
be
attitude.
that young and to like try to pull that off is so cool.
So cool.
The guy is just naturally so talented, so gifted. We will get to True Romance on this podcast. I cannot wait. We might do it sooner than I even planned, just because we've done Heathers now.
Yeah.
I love him in the few things that like he was really, really hardcore in the 80s and 90s. Just so naturally gifted. Making that choice so strong. Winona Ryder, man, how
She's Winona-ing her Ryder off in this movie. She's doing the most Winona Ryder I've ever seen.
this is the year after Beetlejuice.
It's the same year.
88, 89. 88 Beetlejuice, 89. That's what I had seen. Heathers was 89.
I read 88, but maybe that's wrong.
Who knows? These releases, it could have been at the end of the year or something like that. Who knows?
So Winona recently, actually, because of Beetlejuice, was talking about this movie. Did you
Go
see
ahead.
the interview?
I want to talk about that. I don't know if now's the time, but let's do it.
So why not? So she got the audition. They said she wasn't pretty enough. I'm gonna kill myself. And she walked to the Beverly Center.
Macy's.
She got a makeover at the Macy's counter. She came back. She begged for another audition. She was cast. Then her agent at the time begged her not to take this movie, said it would ruin her career. She actually lost a job because she was cast in this movie, and the studio or whatever got offended by the subject matter of this movie and fired her from this movie she was cast in.
What a world at the time.
She's incredible. I love that she was also 16.
I just want to give a reminder. This is partially why this is even happening. It is like, what is it? Starring Winona Ryder. The Criterion Collection has the little grouping or whatever where you could watch like 5 or 6 different of her best movies. And I highly recommend people hopping on that ASAP. It's got some great ones.
For October especially, she is the spooky queen.
Perfect.
She's Beetlejuice. She's Heathers, which I feel like still is a little
Scissorhands.
spooky. Edward Scissorhands. The Crucible. And Dracula.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen. I want to see it. I heard it's horny as fuck.
It is so... Dracula, 1994 or whatever it was, with Gary Oldman. Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. Well, actually, Francis Ford Coppola has a mention here. Michael Lehman, the director, got his start working the phones at American Zoetrope for Francis Ford Coppola when that was his company.
That's awesome.
And this director directed Airheads, Hudson Hawk, never made a sequel, refused to. There was an idea by Dan Waters. This is what I thought you were going to kind of get at with the Winona stuff, where he wrote this idea. He didn't write it fully fleshed out, but it was this idea he had for the sequel where it's years later. Winona's character, Veronica, is in Washington. She's either a page to Senator, played by Meryl Streep, or Meryl Streep's the First Lady. It's unclear. But basically, the ending was that Veronica assassinates the president, and it's a good thing.
Sure.
And
I could see it.
Winona Ryder was so jazzed about this idea, loved it so much. He tells her kind of like as a one-off, like as a lark. A year later, she comes back. She's like, I talked to Meryl. She's in. And they didn't. He was like, what? It was like, I don't have anything.
What?
And so she's been talking about it apparently in the past 2 months because of the Beetlejuice thing, where she has acknowledged that she's like, I really wanted it to happen for years.
And she also said, I think that ship has sailed. And I wonder if it's because we've had a recent assassination attempt of a former president.
Entirely possible.
And she's like,
because it's like a month ago where she made
this project.
Comment, I think.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I can't believe they had Meryl in the bag and they were like,
She had Meryl in the bag.
Well,
agents weren't involved yet, I'm sure. It was just like, yeah, sure, why not? That sounds great. I want to be in Heathers too. I thought that was a really cool idea, though.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like that. I love that most of the big ideas in this movie are just said in like a casual throwaway line. Like, towards the beginning, she's getting a smoothie at the Snappy Snack Shack, which apparently was 7-Eleven. Yeah. But then 7-Eleven pulled out because they read the script.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was surprised there was a brand, Harley Davidson, was in the foreground on his bike. And I was like, I'm surprised that they were okay with
Me
this.
too. Any brand.
They have a brand that's like pretty badass, yeah.
He looked great riding that bike. No, but she says, it feels like they're my coworkers and our job is being popular and shit. It's like, again, teens imitating adulthood.
Yes. Yeah. I love that line too. That was all those things just were like these glimmering, diamonds, like just coming at you. I was very impressed.
He made all these nuggets of like ideas just flow cohesively. He got all the characters. It's true. Without Martha, this movie is way less empathetic towards the underdog. Without JD, obviously, the whole movie falls apart. But without a nihilist, you don't have anything to bump against the other extreme, which is the Heathers. Yeah. So you need both. It's great. It's great structurally.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Dan Waters, I just want to say, I found this out in the research after watching the movie. this man is forever goated in my mind. People hate Hudson Hawk, but I watched that when I was a kid a bunch of times. He wrote Batman Returns and Demolition Man, very important movies to a 1 to 10-year-old
Boy.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for filling in the gap there.
A 1 to 10-year-old who is interested in demos and Batman.
Sure.
Could be girl. Wasn't this girl, but could be a girl.
No, Dan Waters is
That's awesome.
has a place in my heart forever for now.
I'm so glad. I'm
crazy.
so glad that I'm so relieved that you like this movie, because sometimes, I mean, obviously I would have held my own opinion of this movie, but sometimes when people I respect are like, that movie wasn't for me. Like, we talked to our friend about Promising Young Woman, which is another polarizing movie, which we will get into and he hasn't seen. But I was like, oh no, did I miss the point of that movie? Because I really liked it. But it's just, smart people can have different opinions of this movie. I'm so glad that you laughed as hard at this movie as I did, that you found it as like smart and satirical as I did. Because yes, it is, I feel like after this movie came out and it was satirizing other movies of the time, people didn't get it then. They glorified JD. There is a haunting similarity with his trench coat, rebel without a cause, like emo boy facade that is very emblematic of the Columbine shooters. Like, they saw this movie and they were like, that kid gets it. And completely missed the point.
I mean, any idea that is... unfortunately, it's like ideas are dangerous, but that doesn't. The thing is like those people saw it and got something from it, but a vast majority of the people, I think, got 100%. The right read of it. Yeah. I would hope so anyway. And in my head, that's how it works. I think it's very important. I think what it was trying to, or what it actually accomplished, is really, really incredible, especially considering like the people involved, the moment in time.
And also how it's packaged, which is like so cartoonishly broad.
Yeah.
And I know that's intentional, but the first time I saw it, I didn't have like the media literacy that I guess I do now. And I was just like, how did they get this thing funded? This is ridiculous. Yeah. And it was like intentional. It's supposed to be.
And so actually that's interesting because I'm coming at it from a world that's been influenced by Heather's. And so maybe I'm more amenable to the ideas and the feelings and the style than I would otherwise. Because some of it reminds me, like, the dumbest parts remind me of like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or something. And it's like that came slightly later.
Yes.
Like this is the predecessor to a lot of those things. Yeah. So it could be that I was just perfectly ripe to like watch this now after all these years.
I laughed so hard. I love the whole slow descent into madness that Christian Slater and Winona Ryder take together.
Me too.
And there is like something to be said for he's lying through his teeth. He's like, oh, I didn't know that it was the drainer cleaner. Or, oh, babe, I didn't know that I told you they were blanks.
Bad boyfriend.
He's gaslighting, but then he turns it on her and he goes, you wanted to believe that those bullets were fake. You wanted to kill them. And she's like, no, I didn't. And they have this amazing, like, you're wrong. Like, temper tantrums and she stabs herself with the lighter and he lights his cigarette on her wound. It's ridiculous. It is the epitome of toxic boyfriend. And then the last straw is he shoots his radio and she goes, that's it. We're breaking up. And I'm like, that's it? That moment? Babe.
Unbelievable.
Because even the main character is a stupid teenage girl. She's got a great soul, but she also makes the dumb fucking mistakes that every teenage girl makes.
I'm so happy that we got this reaction to it. Like, this was such a pleasure. I love this movie.
Yeah, I will say, now that I've seen it a couple of times, I don't understand croquet at all.
It's croquet.
Croquet.
I played croquet when I was a kid. Oh. That was like one of the few things that we had in the backyard.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to have to teach me sometime. It looks confusing.
I gotta tell you, I don't remember very much about it. Like, I just remember we had a set. We also had darts, and my brother threw a dart in my leg once, and it was like sticking out. Like, it was like in my leg, probably this much.
Oh.
Probably about that much, and then he had to pull it out. He was like so worried.
He was like,
please
don't tell
don't
Mom,
tell Mom.
don't tell Mom.
Oh my god! And it was like, I'm like, you got me in the leg, and he takes it out slowly, and it's just like an empty hole, and then all of a sudden, trickle of blood, and I was just
And
like,
then you scream. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whenever that happened with me and my sister, I was like, oh, you're so dead. Mom! Like,
it was great. He was very nice to me for about a week and a half.
as he should have been. So there is an alternate ending to this movie. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
The original ending was that Winona Ryder kills JD successfully with the gun. Can't stop the bomb. And the school blows up with everyone in it. And it ends with a prom in heaven.
That's sick. That's great. I love that.
And it's literally like minutes after Christian Slater has the line of like, the
Yeah.
only way
Yeah.
all the societal groups will get along is in heaven or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how it ended.
I would have also been fine with that. I love the ending.
I would have been less satisfied, I think, because I don't
would've-
like endings like that. But I understand that it would have been cool.
That would have, I think, driven the point all the way home
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people. And I want to talk about, some of the stuff that, is risque now. A lot of the homophobia,
Mm-hmm.
the mineral water joke is just one of the greatest written.
He pulls out the what is it called, homosexual like evidence
Yeah.
from the bag, and Joan Crawford's photo,
Yep.
a box of chocolates. And then mineral water. And she's like, lots of people drink mineral water. And he was like, not in Ohio. And then this scene with the police, he goes, what happened here? And he goes, does that explain it for
Does
you?
that answer your question?
It's mineral water.
Oh my God. Jesus H. Christ.
And then it redeems the whole poking fun at that trope of Ohio homophobes with, I love my dead gay son.
And then immediately followed by the JD line where he's like, would he still love it if there was a pulse in that limp wrist? He says that right after.
Oh, I missed that in
it
in
happens
the funeral.
so quick.
Whoa.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's so
Brilliant.
critical of all of these things. It's again like hammering home just because you have this subject matter in a movie does not mean you are excusing it. It doesn't mean you're
No.
romanticizing it. It means you're critiquing it.
Critiquing it. The entire movie is a vicious critique
Yeah.
of the culture of, of that time and also now even.
Yeah.
I want to talk also the sexual assault.
Yeah.
Very tough, but it's happening in the background as she's walking up the hill.
That is my one note for Winona Ryder. Girl, help your friend.
But that is like a critique of
100% of that character.
of that character and those type of people
Yeah.
who are just like, my
She's
friend's getting. Yeah, but,
Oh yeah, she's shoving him off, but let's go on your motorbike.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get out of here.
I thought that was so
Yeah.
clear and well done.
Yeah.
Really well done. So, this is such a weird, fun fact. David Newman, this is great. David Newman, the composer. Does that sound familiar to you, Newman? Mm-hmm. David Newman? David Newman, first of all, was nominated for an Oscar composing Anastasia. David
I
Newman.
love Anastasia.
His father.
That's why it sounds familiar.
His father was Alfred Newman, composer. He was nominated for 9 Oscars in the early Hollywood era.
Sure.
He created the 20th century fanfare
Whoa.
sound. His mom was a Samuel Goldwyn. He was a Goldwyn girl during that time. A lot of famous people were, Lucille Ball being one. Sister and brother.
Back when actors had contracts with studios.
Thomas and Maria are his sister and brother.
Okay.
Both composers. Thomas Newman,
Oh, yeah, I know him.
one of the most famous composers of all time.
Damn.
Cousin of Randy Newman.
What the fuck?
Father and him actually both worked on 2 different Anastasia adaptations, in 1954 and then his in whatever 97.
Yeah, the 97 one's the one I love.
The family is just all composers.
That's
It's composers all the way
crazy.
down.
There must be some gene in that pool.
Apparently, they are Russian Jews, I believe, and Ashkenazi Jews, I believe.
I think.
And so you think
I want to do a 23andMe.
after the legal stuff gets sorted out with the purchasing and everything. But yeah, they were Russian. And very talented family. Incredible.
That's crazy.
I mean, just in like cousins or like uncles who were also composers, I think.
Imagine like you are a successful composer and then your cousin's Randy Newman. You're like, all right, well, thought I was going to be the star of the family.
Well, I think Randy Newman's worked on less projects. Obviously, Randy Newman's won 2 Oscars or whatever. Some of the biggest nominations ever. But I think I'm underselling his dad, Alfred, was like considered like a towering figure.
The Hans Zimmer of his time.
Essentially, even more than that, because he was like in charge of a lot. I think a lot of the studio. I forgot which studio, maybe MGM, but the studio's overall musical direction.
Cool.
Where he would give composers notes on movies and everything.
I love that.
It just, I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever heard. It's amazing.
Well, that was Heather's.
That was Heather's.
I'm so glad you liked it.
I can't believe it took me this long to watch it. It's been a phenomenal movie week.
Yeah.
In this house.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great.
Gonna keep it up.
I've seen Beetlejuice, The Substance.
I have not.
Alien Romulus.
I
watched this.
You are halfway through Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of Rosemary's Baby.
He says it's a little slow going.
Well, it's just different than I expected.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I like a lot of what I'm seeing.
Oh, you know what
What's
we
up?
probably should do for Spooky Month? Hereditary.
Yeah. Probably. I've never seen it. Yeah, never seen it.
That one's a popular
You've
one.
seen it.
I have seen it.
All right.
Okay.
Heather's fantastic. I'm so happy that we did. Oh, Shannon Doherty's in this movie.
Yeah.
Completely forgot about that. She's great. I liked her a
Excellent
lot.
as well.
Yeah, everyone was good. One of my favorites. Very happy.
Nice.
That's
another
a 5.
one.
That's a 5
another
star
one of
from
cats.
me.
Oh,
That's a 5 star. That's a 5 star and a heart and a fave.
whoa.
Yeah.
You never give numbers.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know. No, I will give out 5 stars. I will. I might
Oh,
not
you won't give out 4.5. That's the coward's rating.
No, I've given that out before too. I think I've given out basically anything 4 and above. I will not rate something on this show if it's lower than that.
I don't think
I
we'll
just won't
watch
do it.
something on this show if it's lower than that.
True. Well, anyway, that was Heather's.
Thanks for listening / watching.
Yeah.
I got my 80s hair today, if you're watching.
It's great.
This is my natural hair.
It actually needs to be.
I know, I have to
for this
tease it.
podcast. Yeah.
Wild hairstyles. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one.
I guess. Take care.
Bye.